My mom really likes them. When I do watch it, it's funny, but there's a lot of programming in there. Like men are idiots, men are morons. Every dad on a Fox show for 30 years since Married with Children is just a complete buffoon. That's all financed, just like the current Attorney General, back when he was Deputy Attorney General 20-something years ago, said, we got to literally brainwash the public. Well, these are the messages. And when you see every show where the father's a moron, and every show where gun owners are racist, and every show where women are the boss, you're seeing globalist conditioning. Meanwhile, a record number, 56,023,000 women are not in the labor force. And women in every major study are the biggest sex objects they've ever been. And most women say that they, in studies, are not happy with the way their lives are going. Well, that's because the government wrote the script for you, Cupcake. And men aren't happy as well, unless they're busy watching one of their favorite football shows. But I want to go to your phone calls, Jason, Matthew, Brian, Paul, Kevin, and others, on this whole move toward dictatorial power. Now it's just out in the open. It's not Alex Jones saying we're devolving and degenerating and rotting and sinking and collapsing and festering into a stinking heap of dictatorial swarminess with gaggles of sycophantic pumps becoming their own little local viceroys to oppress and dabble in control freak dreams. It's the establishment. We're technocrats now. Why? The EU appoints presidents and prime ministers now, and we'll do it in America, too. Ha, 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 ha. And Goldman Sachs will fund both Jeb Bush and Hillary. Or will you? We'll talk about the fall of Hillary Clinton coming up, but I do want to go to your phone calls. But since I mentioned what Alan Greenspan and Nora Rothschild are saying, I thought I'd play a brief report, a brief snippet from last night's InfoWars Nightly News, hosted by our anchor, Darren McBreen.
Now, speaking of arming our enemies, Lord Rothschild is warning investors that we are about to embark on the most dangerous geopolitical time since World War II. Well, he should know, after all, his family funded most every war since the Napoleonic Wars. Lord Jacob Rothschild, whose business associates include weasels like Warren Buffett and Henry Kissinger, well, he blamed the dangerous climate on chaos and extremism in the Middle East, Russian aggression and expansion, and a weakened Europe threatened by horrendous unemployment. So that is a very scary thought coming from this guy. And if you're not familiar with the history of the Rothschild family, I suggest you look into it. I mean, these guys are worth a lot of money. The Rothschild family is worth $500 trillion. And they own nearly every central bank in the world. They've financed both sides of basically every war since Napoleon. The Rothschilds, they own your news, the media, your oil, and your government. Most of you don't even know who this evil bastard is. And I also found out something else very disturbing about Lord Rothschild. He looks like Mr. Burns from The Simpsons. I mean, the resemblance is obvious. The only difference is Mr. Burns is about as harmless as a Boy Scout or Mother Teresa in comparison. What a douche.
Smithers, let's start World War III.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. The InfoWars Nightly News will return right after this. When we come back, we have two very powerful reports, one from Leanne McAdoo, the other from John Bound. And I'm going to sit down and talk to a biblical scholar. We're going to talk about the emergence of implantable microchips. Is the mark of the beast coming up? That's coming up next on the InfoWars Nightly News.
I don't think it's coming up. I think it's pretty much arrived. That's what his report shows. That's all at prisonplanet.tv and Infowars.com/show to find all those details. All right. Coming up, I'll get into this new Save the Net bill that the Republican junior members have brought forward. That's where legislation is supposed to come from, so I think it needs to be supported because we should cause a debate about the bill should be in Congress, not from an executive branch agency. But the Washington Post is attacking it because it doesn't let the feds take over the internet where they had no jurisdiction before. It just returns it back to the people. Doesn't mean I trust the way this bill would be implemented. There needs to be no government involved. Vaccine, not Ebola, made docs sick. That's in a new study, mainstream news. We'll get into that. We're going to get into a new Time magazine poll where Drudge and the Food Babe were far more influential than Obama. Well, Drudge was #1. This is why feds want to take over the internet. Alternative media pioneer Matt Drudge and health activist Vani Hari, a.k.a. the Food Babe, are far more influential than President Obama, according to Time.com poll. People ask why I wasn't included. I frankly don't care. But I was not included in the big list of names you could choose from. So that's just why. I think it was smart of Time, actually, to pick Drudge and Vani Hari, just to see what folks would say. And Drudge was #1, Vani Hari #2. Alternative media pioneer Matt Drudge and health activist Vani Hari, a.k.a. the Food Babe, are far more influential than President Obama, according to a Time.com poll respondents. The poll appears at the end of an article listing Time's picks for the 30 most influential people on the internet. And at the time of this writing, Matt Drudge of the Drudge Report commands the lead with 29%, the Food Babe with 27%, and President Obama comes in a distant third with 6%. Yeah, I mean, even 3-4 years ago, the Obama babe quit doing what she was doing because the YouTube videos would get like 2,000 views. I mean, people are sick of it, okay? They're sick of all the polished teleprompter bull. And it just goes through the whole graph. You've got Drudge #1, Vani Hari #2, Barack Obama #3, Taylor Swift #4, Jimmy Fallon #5, Brandon Stanton, whoever that is, #6. And it just goes on from there. From the 30 things that people that Time chose to let folks choose from. And I think if I'd have been included there, I'd probably been like #2 and the Vani Hari #3. But I mean, I don't even care if Vani Hari was #1. All I care about is getting the GMO out of our food. It's a victory for all of us. And you see this in so many other metrics. This is why they want to take over the internet. And that's why they're doing it. I mean, George Soros didn't give $196 million with the government-run Ford Foundation to pass this net neutrality it's not legislation, this federal rules power grab out of the FCC because they love internet freedom. It's because they're coming for our internet freedom, period. And they still won't release the 330-plus pages, will they? Again, freedom is still there, but they've built this whole new tyranny beside it that is now swallowing up, dissolving, like a jellyfish kind of grabs a fish and pulls it up to dissolve it. It's just dissolving down to our skeletal bones what was left of the republic. And I'm just watching it with horror. And the elite, in their conquering, realize it's so dangerous, they're all running to armored redoubts in Switzerland and Australia and Monte Carlo and the Bahamas to watch the U.S. blow up and melt down from afar. And maybe they'll roast hot dogs in the flames or something. I mean, it's just redonkulous how classical tyranny this is. Classical corruption. Classical oligarchy degenerating. I mean, quite frankly, we had some corrupt oligarchy that still was narcissistic and wanted to build big public institutions and build big, beautiful art houses and, you know, fund grandiose ideas. It'd still be bad. I would still oppose it as not being freedom-based and picking winners and losers, but I wouldn't be risking my life fighting it. I wouldn't be throwing myself at it with just absolute savage tooth and nail viciousness, just turning loose every fiber of will I've got to try to come up with the semantical palette to paint the picture that represents reality of the horror to try to get people out of their trance. I mean, this world government is an expression of hatred for humanity and a hatred of goodness. It's just so nasty, so stinking, so crawling directly out of the rotting hole of the carcass that is the mouth of hell. It's like a dead cow blown in the sun with a big hole in the side of it with the maggots pouring out of it. I mean, I hate to be gross like that, but that's what, like, looking at this is like. crawling all over us. I could care less about red carpets and big giant jets and all that narcissistic stuff that these festooned tyrants and their little outfits prancing around all day to each other. It makes me want to throw up. When I see Michelle Obama or John Boehner or Michael Moore, it's like seeing a maggot spilling out of rotting flesh. It's just, I just recoil from these nasty little wicked scumbags who've joined with the most evil forces on earth to try to overthrow goodness and bring in a new age of darkness. All right, I said I'd go to your calls, and I'm ranting. Briefly, Briefly, we are a listener-supported transmission. That means spreading the word, supporting our sponsors. I want to thank you all and salute you all for that. Plus, we have really good, high-quality T-shirts, ball caps, long-sleeve shirts that promote Molon Lobby, the Second Amendment. We have a whole Made in America section.